Maryland and Virginia might look similar on a map, but living in them feels about as different as cats and dogs are. People who live in the DC metro area have very serious opinions about which side of the river is better, and it is not just about traffic and commutes. One side might win on commutes, the other on green space. One state taking a harder line on the environment, the other is betting big on business. So if you are trying to decide which side of the river to call home, you need to know which state is actually quietly winning right now. In this video, I am going to break down living in Maryland and Virginia for families, for everyone, really. And at the end, I'm going to give you my honest take on who should choose Maryland and who should choose Virginia. Round one. Jobs and future demand. So let's start with jobs and future demand because housing follows employment every single time. So there was a time pre-COVID, the good old days, when large homes and big yards were avoided like the plague. Then the plague came and it drastically changed what people wanted home to look like. People wanted space, they wanted home offices, they wanted yards. And Northern Virginia was sitting there saying, hi, we have that, tons of it. So the simple fact is that there is actually more business in Northern Virginia, and that naturally translates into more demand for homes there. I don't expect this to change anytime soon unless Maryland can somehow start attracting more employers to the state in a serious way. And given how expensive it is to run a business in Maryland, that is unlikely to happen. Maryland actually ranks 47th in terms of business operation expense. That means in 46 states, it is cheaper to run a business than it is in Maryland. Virginia consistently ranks much higher as a business-friendly state. What that means for you is Virginia housing demand is likely to stay strong, especially in places like Arlington, Alexandria, and Fairfax County, because the jobs are close and the business climate is just so much better. So if you want to ride the wave of where employers are actually going, Virginia gets the edge, you guys. They've got the edge on jobs and demand and future demand and all of that. But that doesn't automatically make it the right choice for you, especially when we start talking about taxes and rules. Round two, taxes and cost of living. So this is the part that nobody wants to think about, but you absolutely need to. In Maryland, there is a state income tax. Plus, there is a county income tax, and that county income tax adds roughly another 3% to your income taxes if you live in, say, Montgomery County. Maryland has a history of raising taxes and struggling with a balanced budget. Now, Montgomery County recently increased recordation taxes for properties above $500,000. Let's face it, that's pretty much everything because it's expensive. Now, in Virginia, you just have the state income tax. Counties in Virginia, they don't stack another income tax on top because Virginia has just given them very little taxing authority. But Virginia absolutely still finds ways to get you. They have a personal property tax on cars, boats, RVs, planes, pretty much all the toys. And that can add up. Add on real estate transfers and you're going to see things there like congestion relief taxes that go into the thousands. So do many people feel like the financials work out a bit better in Virginia? Yes, especially for higher earners who really feel that extra county income tax in Maryland. But it's not a clean sweep. If you absolutely hate the idea of paying tax every year on your car, that Virginia personal property tax will make your eye twitch. If you are on a tight monthly budget, this is where it really helps to sit down with your numbers and compare like Maryland salary and Maryland taxes versus Virginia salary and Virginia taxes, because the answer really isn't the same for everybody. Round three, rules, gas, and Big Brother. So I bet you didn't see this one coming, but let's talk about rules and regulations because the personalities of these places sort of really show up here. In Maryland, especially in Montgomery County, looking at you, if you like gas and not the kind that comes out of your you-know-what, I am talking about gas stoves, gas cars. Pay attention, people. They have moved to ban gas appliances in new construction, and a broader ban is supposed to be starting in 2026. Yes, there are already lawsuits. Of course, but the direction is clear. Less gas, more regulation. They have also banned gas leaf blowers in Montgomery County as of July 1st, 2025. You can actually report people for using gas leaf blowers and they can get fined $500. And that sort of Big Brother is watching and neighbors reporting neighbors it's like a theme in Montgomery County. They love their laws, and some people there are real sticklers for them and they love enforcing them. Now in Virginia, the only rumblings like this that you hear about gas leaf blowers in places are like in places like Alexandria, but the regulatory culture is generally less intense than in Montgomery County. If you like structure, regulation, and a very active local government, Maryland might feel like home to you. If you prefer a little less oversight and you're okay with some quirky taxes, Virginia's probably more your speed. Next round is Maryland versus Virginia schools. Let's do a reality check here. We've got to get into schools because if you have kids, this is usually the number one thing on your mind. Now, on recent national rankings, Virginia actually tends to land higher for education overall than Maryland. But those numbers really don't tell you what it actually feels like on the ground in specific districts. So let's sort of zoom in a little bit. In Montgomery County, on the Maryland side, it's been a rough few years, let's just say that. A superintendent resigned after criticism over mishandling long-running sexual harassment issues with a principal that she was charged to oversee. She was actually paid over $1 million to just go away. They did not need that in their budget, by the way. There have been repeated issues with weapons in schools, bomb threats, and great teachers are leaving because they are done with the drama. Now, the good news, there's a new superintendent, and he's been on the job a little over a year. He is pushing for more transparency, more decisions being made at the school level instead of everything being centralized. And they are actually finally addressing some of the more ridiculous grading policies. What are those? No more super generous rounding where 2 A's and a D somehow magically average out to be a B. I don't know. If you're a Gen X, you're like, what? How did that happen? Like 2 A's and a D probably resulted in detention. Anyway, no more minimal effort grade of 50% where a 0 just became half credit. The code of conduct has been tightened, so serious infractions like bomb threats or assaulting a teacher actually jump straight to higher level consequences. Can you believe that that wasn't the case before? They are also working on a new regional model for academic programs to spread things like IB and STEM and leadership and the arts more evenly across the high schools. So there's change on the horizon for Montgomery County, but it's been messy getting here and it's still a work in progress. Let's go over the river into Northern Virginia. Fairfax County is installing weapons detectors in all the high schools, and after issues with weapons and a stabbing at West Potomac High School, that seems to be very necessary. Arlington Public Schools have had their own issues, including multiple cases of instructional aides that were charged with having inappropriate relationships with students. The school board, somewhat inexperienced, and the district is a bit top-heavy on administrators per student. Alexandria City Public Schools are still very much a work in progress. They have had significant turnover in principals and staff, and that massive single high school with around 4,500 students actually feels more like a college campus than a traditional high school. So is Virginia number one and perfect and Maryland is a disaster? No. Both have strengths, both have flaws, and both are actively trying to fix things. If you want more structure and you like the idea of things that are trending in a more traditional, academically rigorous direction, Montgomery County really might be sort of on its way back to like reclaiming that status. If you want a wider variety of strong suburban school options right now, Fairfax and Arlington actually seem to have a lot more to offer, definitely with some caveats though. So you have to dive in a little deeper. I'm happy to help you do that as well. All right, so which side is better for you and your family? After all of that, you might be thinking, all right, Melissa, can you please just tell me which side of DC is better for my family? Here's how I break this down for my clients. You might lean Maryland if you sort of love this idea of living in Montgomery County and you're drawn to its communities, its diversity, its undeniable appreciation for green space and the environment. You might be okay with a bit more regulation and tax complexity, even if the schools are bumpy right now. Maybe you're not as tied to the big job centers in Northern Virginia and you can tolerate a slightly longer commute, or maybe you have a more like hybrid work, remote work situation. You might lean Virginia if you work in or near Arlington, Alexandria, Tysons, or the Dulles Tech Corridor and you don't want to live in your car. Maybe you like the idea of strong job growth and sustained housing demand, helping protect your investment. You would rather deal with a weird car tax than layer on county income tax on top of the state income tax. Maybe you prefer a slightly less regulation-heavy culture, even when it comes to its own quirks. For a lot of my clients, the truth is this. They start out open to both Maryland and Virginia, and then we narrow it down together based on commutes, schools, and budget. There's no one size fits all here. There's only what's right for your family and your budget. If you are sitting there right now with a spreadsheet and 47 school tabs open and you still cannot figure out where you should live, please do not crowdsource from the mom forums. Please don't do that. If you are thinking about buying or selling in the DC area and you want someone who actually understands the market dynamics, not just somebody who's going to show you houses, I would love to help. We will narrow this whole Maryland versus Virginia decision down to 2 or 3 areas that actually make sense for your family. My contact info is coming next.